Just last month, you testified for a second time, I believe, in front of the January 6th committee. Did their questions give any clues as to what these new revelations might be that are apparently on the way when the hearings begin this week?
Well, I'm not going to get ahead of them in that regard. I think that they have been very smart to hold so many things close to the vest. I think that that's really important because, as you just mentioned, Team Trump is going to try to come out with distractions and the normal, this is a witch hunt, none of this is real, this is all partisan politics. So I think it's really, really smart that they've done that. I've got to say, I'm really hopeful. Our country right now is facing a lot. We've had so many mass shootings. We've got the pain at the pump. We've got record inflation, and of course, we've got the conflict in Ukraine. And so, I hope that this will be done in a really well thought out way. That the American people will still be able to pay attention and understand, what happened on January 6th.
And have you been asked to appear as a witness during any of these upcoming hearings?
No, I have not. No, I spoke to them twice, like I said, and so I have no idea if anything I said will be used in the hearings. I remain, willing and able to help them in any way. But it sounds like from the few witnesses that have been released, Mark Short, I think that's fantastic. He is a really good person with a lot of integrity, and it sounds like they've got some really key witnesses that are going to be important to telling the story. I, of course, was so far away from the West Wing at that point, so my testimony has been more of giving them a roadmap to, who would know what, who should they talk to, how things were done, that kind of a thing.
Right, and one of the things that was just released a few days ago when CNN obtained some of these text messages was that they were running things past the First Lady on that day. And I know that you were familiar with some of that. Did the committee want to talk about some of those details?
Not really, because I don't, as you probably recall, I resigned so early that day. I resigned when it was all happening. So there are no conversations I would be aware of that they were running past her. I resigned, in fact, when she refused to tweet out, a call for calm and no violence. So I don't know. I've, of course, heard those reports as well, but I'm not sure, what, if anything, they're going to talk about was Melania Trump's role or her knowledge in all of this. I think the important thing that I hope people will get out of this is that as commander-in-chief and as the former president of the United States, his job, his role was to protect all Americans, and that includes the people who were in that building that day and who feared for their lives, not to mention his own vice president.
Right, and one of the last times we spoke, you told me about how former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows was involved in planning some of these off-the-books meetings in the days before the insurrection. On Friday, we learned both he and Trump's director of social media, somebody you're familiar with, Dan Scavino, will not be prosecuted for refusing to cooperate with the January 6th committee. What was your reaction to that?
I was confused. I think that the statement that the committee put out about it really encompassed what I was thinking. I truly was confused by that, most certainly with Mark Meadows, who was, again, chief of staff at that time and who was facilitating so many conversations and meetings and doing, all of President Trump's bidding. I was puzzled by it. I actually wondered, are they secretly cooperating with the DOJ? I mean, that's how confused I was by it. I don't know. I don't know. That was weird to me. I was happy to see what happened with Peter Navarro. I think that was important. I think that, the Trump team always gets away with no consequences. I know because I was part of that world, and that was always the attitude. We were very flippant because, nobody was going to get us. And so I think that with the DOJ's latest decision, specifically with Meadows, it's just more of, they get away with it all. And I think that's disappointing for a lot of people.
Peter Navarro, who once attacked you for your, quote, a betrayal of Trump, was just indicted by a federal grand jury. Your thoughts on that?
Well, like I said, I was happy. Look, I mean, Peter was, he was always riding outside of the lines at the White House. He was a pain, I'll just say, in the butt for pretty much everybody in our administration. I always bent over backwards to try to make him happy because it was just the easiest thing to do. But I was happy to see that because he's been openly defying the committee. He has been openly defying everybody. I don't think that it's going to make him flip. I think he's going to, turn himself into a martyr, just like Steve Bannon with this. But I was happy to see it because, again, I think it's so important that we show people that your actions have consequences. I myself have been having to deal with consequences. And I think that's very fair. And so I think that anybody in that administration needs to deal with the consequences of their actions and needs to be punished.
And getting back to those texts that CNN obtained, more than 2,000 text messages that Mark Meadows turned over to the January 6th committee. It included this one that Trump's campaign spokesman Jason Miller sent to both Meadows and Trump aide Scavino on January 6th. It says, "Call me crazy, but ideas for 2 tweets from POTUS. Bad apples, likely Antifa or other crazed leftists infiltrated today's peaceful protest over the fraudulent vote count." Or he suggests, number 2, the fake news media who encouraged this summer's violent and radical riots are now trying to blame peaceful and innocent MAGA supporters for violent actions. I mean, Stephanie, right away, it sounds as though an effort was already beginning to create alternative facts for what happened.
Did you just use alternative facts?
I think I did, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Not the first time.
But okay. So, I think I can say that was in the playbook. Immediately see how you can deflect and blame others. Immediately. That is what we went to. That is what I did too. That's why I saw it. I saw the text that Jason sent, and I kind of shook my head because that's just what you did. You immediately blame others, and sadly, a lot of people fall for it. Because look at how many people think the election was stolen. So it didn't surprise me at all. It disappointed me, but also that just seems silly at this point. So I guess we'll just see what happens. I am looking forward. I know that I shouldn't say that, but to see all the things they're going to try to do this week to distract from the hearings, because I do know that they're nervous. I do know that they're nervous that a lot of the stuff has been kept very secret, and they're not sure what's going to happen.
I do know that as well, Stephanie. I spoke with a Trump advisor just the other day who said that they're worried about what's taking place down in Fulton County, Georgia, with that investigation. That is something that they're concerned about. That could lead to something.
Yes, I've kept in touch with some people close to the Mar-a-Lago scene, and so I've heard the same things.
And what do they say when they say this? When they talk about this?
They're just nervous. Well, sadly, they're nervous that next week and the committee hearings that'll be public are going to affect fundraising. How sad is that? But then also that the criminal element in Georgia has a lot of people very, very nervous. And
after all of this is over, I have to ask you this, Stephanie. Do you fear that Trump will be let off the hook, that he's just going to escape all accountability? You've been with him, or you were with him for many years. You're not with him anymore, obviously, but you were with him when he skated out of so many situations. He can slither his way out of anything like a snake. What are your thoughts? Do you think he can slither away one more time?
Yes. I don't like that answer, but yes, I think he'll let everybody go down for him. And, I don't see him coming out swinging or protecting Peter Navarro right now. I think that anybody who goes down, he's just going to play dumb, and he's going to say, well, I didn't know about that. I didn't know what they were doing. I had no knowledge of that. So I do think he's going to skate away from this. But what I hope is that if the committee can lay things out in a simple way that tells the story of the days leading up to what happened, and that show what he really knew, and that he stood by idly while people were scared for their lives and while Republicans were desperately pleading for help. I hope that will at least show people and have an effect on the 22 and the 24 elections. I don't think he's going to face any charges. I don't. But I think that if the American people can see what happened and know that this isn't partisan, that this is just being laid out like a legal case, and see the facts, that maybe it will have an impact on, again, the elections. Because right now, regardless of if he runs for president, he is trying to put people in state office at the Secretary of State level, governor level, and then, of course, in Congress, who will do exactly what he says if he's president or not. And so I really hope that that's something that can break through all of the other really important things that are happening in our country and have a firm effect on the elections.